not all trace elements are equal.
Indeed, Rob. Some formulations are derived from the sea and things like that, and others are made in chemists' departments and things like that. And one that is extremely good, or most of them are very, very good, that are chelated. And
Chelated.
Chelated. It's like the elements have a chemical claw that attracts to particles in the soil and certain elements in the soil, and that makes them stick and be available. Where the ones that don't have the chemical claw, they totally rely on going through the leaf and into the sap stream. So things like Waxall, their formulations, which is a weird formulation, sort of almost like an algae or sort of a liquid grease, but it's formulated in that formulation because of the way it can release and where the chelates sit, and therefore it's used extremely well.
Now that's interesting you should mention Waxall, because they do that sort of leaf type fertilisation.
Yes, indeed, and most trace element compounds do work through the leaf rather than through the soil. But anything that misses the leaf goes onto the soil. It does adhere to the soil with this chemical claw. So basically, make sure you're dealing with a chelated formulation of trace elements.
Good on you.
Yep.
Now, brassicas and insects.
Yes, Rob. In a dry year like this, it's just heaven for pests of brassicas and things like the white butterfly caterpillar, of course, diamondback moth, which is a real pest, and there's resistance throughout New Zealand now on a lot of the chemicals that are actually registered for its control. And so really they need to seek expert advice as to which ones work and which ones don't, because some of the old ones just do not work at all. So there's also things like leaf miner that get cracking in the crops. So dry seasons, they all come out: diamondback moth, leaf roller, white butterfly, aphid, the whole lot come out, and they all attack at the same time.
You know, it's as though you didn't have enough problems.
Exactly. Yes, indeed.
So what do you do about this resistance?
Well, there are specific chemicals for the diamondback moth. The naturalites like Success and various other ones similar work particularly well, where they are insect growth regulators, and they put the caterpillar in a straitjacket so that as they grow they can't shed their skin and increase their size, and they just get squeezed to death basically.
Oh. Nothing you can say to that, but it's a good thing.
Not really, no.
Now, you mentioned a dry year.
Yes, Rob. Out there, I think a fortnight ago I talked about a green drought. Well, she's now a full-blown. A week of nor'westers, and as I thought, it's probably losing something like 7 millimetres out of the soil profile per day. Now that's a lot to be lost and a lot to put on to catch up. And I think we're going backwards at the moment. There's a full-on fight to protect the yields that we have established, and therefore protect the costs that have gone into setting up these crops. And if farmers run out of water, run out of allocation, there's all sorts of things happening out there, like surface pumps no longer, because the well levels have dropped, they don't work anymore. You can't prime them, you can't get it up. So then you have to go to submersibles. And talking to Tony Deveron a couple of weeks ago, people are crazy if they don't put their submersibles or their pumping unit as close to their mesh at the bottom of the well. If they put it halfway up and then the water level drops, well, what happens? The pumps run short of water, they start capitating, they overheat, they fry themselves. They need water going past those motors to keep them cool. So why not dangle a bit more cable and take it right to the top of the strainer, the filter,
exactly,
at the bottom.
Do you reckon our grain yields are going to be back this year?
Yes, Rob. I think things are sort of moving in that direction. Not only grain yields, grain quality. We'll probably see the wheat proteins go up, but we'll see screenings in a lot of crops, thinner grain, especially barley, dryland barley. Well, I wouldn't give you sixpence for it now. It's probably being hayed off, and maybe people will want to silage it before it goes too far. Yeah.
Are we expecting fungi pressure?
On and off. Dry seasons, warm conditions generally favour day-night generally rusts they need an average of about 13. They need a little bit of dew. We're getting a few dews and things like that. But then farmers irrigate, and so they actually cause a microclimate within the paddock. So you might be still looking at things like downy mildew or septoria, which are wet weather diseases. So there's a mixed bag there, but overall generally drier, so less of those downy mildews, septoria type things.
Feed barley.
Feed barley, the carryover crop is double of what it was last year. We're looking at about 59,000 metric tonnes unsold in silos at the last count, but that is going to be replaced by a 16% drop in area, which roughly equates the same as the extra carryover. And I think if we throw on top of that what the drought's going to do to the quantity and the quality of the barley in the ground, I think we're going to see a backward movement in stocks, which can only just lead to increase in price.
And briefly, ryegrass, what's happening there?
Well, ryegrass, we need to be thinking about the rusts that come into the leaf rust and crown rust that come into ryegrass, and blind seed disease. We need to be people that say, well, in a dry year you don't worry about blind seed disease, but farmers irrigate and irrigate and irrigate, so they create that environment inside the root zone in the ground zone of the plant, and those little mushrooms can be there and sporulate. So you probably want to think about the management you've exercised versus what disease you may have influenced and how you can mitigate that. And blind seed disease, a bit of carbendism at the right time, and you're in business.